saw what you're doing as a dentist, and I knew that your story would be something that would absolutely resonate with our listeners.
I don't know if I was even equipped really, like when I did it. Like looking back, it kind of stresses me out thinking about it.
We talked about that a lot. It
Yeah,
stresses me out to think about it too, man. Yeah.
Oh man.
But I love how you worked through that. Talk about your team, like the good, the bad, the ugly. How's that factored into your practice so far?
There's been a lot of instances where I just have become frustrated, maybe with my team or the personnel or a person or two.
You certainly don't want to experiment on your patients, but like these types of cases just provided great opportunities for growth and learning.
All those things were difficult, but I knew that would benefit me in my second time applying.
What does it feel like to go from early on in your life or your career? What's up, everybody? This is Matt Vogt of the Lifestyle Practice Podcast. Welcome back. At TLP, together with my partners Derek and Steve, we are passionate about helping dentists like you all elevate your lives and careers through practice ownership. Head on over to our website, thelifestylepractice.com, and fill out our free lifestyle and practice assessment. Derek, Steve, or I will get back to you with some personalized comments or thoughts on your unique situation. We've done that for years through our website, and it's been awesome to be able to communicate with you all and hopefully help you all with your own practices. We work with so many great dentists one-on-one, and today I'm very excited to be joined by one of those amazing people, Dr. Dawson Urrutia. Dawson, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, man. Glad to be here. Long-time listener, and it's kind of cool to see it come full circle and be a part of it.
Yeah, man, it's great. It's great to have you on. So to tell the listeners a little bit about why you're here today, we got to working together throughout the course of 2024. And as time went on and I got to know you more and more, I realized that you had something special, not just with the growth and the trajectory of your practice, but just with how you see the world and how you saw what you were doing as a dentist. And I knew that your story would be something that would absolutely resonate with our listeners. And like you said, it's awesome for things to come full circle for you to be on the podcast now as well. So why don't you just start today by telling us a little bit about yourself, for everyone to get to know you a bit, and your journey into practice ownership.
Yeah, so I'm married with two little girls, 1 and 5 years old. This is the 3rd year of our practice now. I worked for another guy. I was an associate for 3 years and grew up in that town. I grew up in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Yeah, I was raised by a single mom for the most part. She worked 2 jobs. She was a teacher and sold cosmetics in the evenings, and a single child, only child there. And so we were really close growing up. Saw mom work really hard. Had some mentors growing up, dads of friends, close friends. Ended up working for one of them. That was who I was an associate for 3 years. Dentistry seemed like a pretty cool gig. I looked up to those guys a lot and really just set the goal pretty young. 5, 6 maybe. Decided I want to be a dentist and never really looked back. Just not that there wasn't a lot of doubt at times, but just never really had a plan B and just kept going. So yeah, that's pretty much how it started.
That's awesome, man. And that resonates. I love what you just said about not having a plan B. Like you've been dead set on this and you made it happen. Both, we know how challenging it is to become a dentist in the first place and then open up your own practice and succeed in the way you have. Like, how do you feel like that your story has kind of shaped you into doing what you've done?
Yeah, so like I alluded to, just seeing my mom work so hard and just some of the struggles there, which she was a good provider, but it motivated me to want to be a good provider, for my family. And I played sports growing up. There's a lot of adversities there, obviously, to overcome. So I had some injuries. I got taken out of sports my senior year for the most part. And at the time, kind of felt like that was the end of the world, but turns out God had a better plan. So that's a whole nother story. But going through that, navigating that as an 18-year-old was tough. But looking back, it put me in the undergrad where I needed to be and to meet my wife, and probably removed a lot of distractions that I would have had, probably would have kept me out of dental school, I would think. So set me on a trajectory there to succeed and taught me a lot. I ran track in college because I couldn't play the other sports because of concussions, but that was a whole different kind of hard. But taught me how to do hard things and showed myself where you could push yourself too. And I think that translated into academics as well. Maybe not early on. Definitely had some bumpy roads there, but towards the end of my undergrad, kind of picked it up and got it going and ended up being successful, obviously.
Yeah. And I love, you talked about doing hard things in sports and competition and just your upbringing, teaching you how to do hard things. And you chose to do something that's pretty hard and starting a practice from scratch. What made you decide to do the startup, Dawson? We talked about this briefly, I know, but we started working together a few years after you actually got doors open. But that's that age-old debate that we dentists like to have. We talk about on the podcast. Dentists talk about all the time. Do I start a practice or do I acquire one? What made you do that? Talk to us a little bit about that.
So, I mean, in dental school, I started listening to TLP and kind of following you guys. That was before you came on, obviously. And, they were big on acquisitions. So therefore, I kind of was too. But, we got married, back up a little bit, we got married my first semester of dental school. So I moved my wife from southern Missouri to northern Missouri. Then I went to AT Still, so that was in Kirksville. The last 2 years, your clinical years, you moved to St. Louis, so 3 hours away. And then once I graduated, we moved to Arkansas, to Alma, where we are now. So to say that I moved my wife, 3 times in 4 years, we really just fell in love with where we were. Really liked the small community. My wife got a job teaching. Really didn't want to leave. And there was a town about an hour away that COVID shut down like 4 of their 7 dentists and got pretty close to jumping into that pool, which financially I think would have been a great move. But, just to go back to, we didn't want to leave. I don't know, we prayed about it a lot. All to say, I felt like God opened the doors and steered us to a startup. So I had a buddy in dental school, which he listens to TLP a lot. So shout out to Bill if you listen. But, I never told him at the time, and I don't know if I ever told him this either, but he was drawn towards startups, and I thought he was an idiot. Like, that is the worst idea, the worst business plan, and I was never interested in it at all, which is cool. A lot of times I believe that's how God works, is pushing you towards, out of your comfort zone, pushing you into things that if it works, you could only attribute to him and to his plan for your life. So that's what I would say has happened here. But just one thing after another, the doors kind of opened, and it was pretty clear that's what we wanted to do and needed to do, and so we did it. And I don't know if I was even equipped really, like when I did it. It was kind of a figure it out as you go deal. Like looking back kind of stresses me out, thinking
We talked about that a lot. It stresses me out that they were out of too, man. Yeah.
but man, the first couple of years, hats off to you doing it straight out of school like that. That is impressive. So I'm glad I did this associateship, worked for another guy for 3 years, just getting more comfortable with dentistry and people, dealing with people. I think that helped me a lot in the transition of working for myself. But yeah, so kind of just jumped in both feet and didn't look back.
So before we jump into the team, because I think I want you to talk about how you've led your team, and I think you do an incredible job with that. You talked about loving Alma and wanting to stay there. Did you know that the demographics in that area were favorable for a startup, or did you just kind of have a hunch? Like, how did you decide to stay there for sure and plant your stake in the ground and start the practice?
I did have a hunch and felt like it would be a good idea, but I did outsource a demographic study, so give me some more confidence there. But they did like a 15-mile up to 30-minute drive time. So Alma was only 5,000 people, but in 15-mile radius we had 60,000. And about 8 miles away we've got a bigger town of like 40,000. There's several dentists there, but there was only 2 dentists at the time in this town, so the numbers were there. That was when I got that report back, that gave me even more confidence that we could make it work. Which, to get your loan, as you know, you've got to have the demographics have to be there to secure startup loan.
I think you're definitely fortunate in that you had a spot where you're like, hey, I love to live here, and also that's perfect for a startup. Like, it was just asking to have a startup, which There's so many things that people can gather from that. You went to an area of need. It's very convenient that you wanted to live there, but you went to an area of need, and that's important. The location is by far the most important thing when you're opening a practice. And so can you open in an area that's a bit more saturated? Sure, but it's just going to be more difficult to grow that practice as fast as you want, or, as fast as you did with your practice. It was incredible. And so I think the discussion about startups versus acquisitions, you're right. Like when Derek and Steve, have championed acquisitions and done that themselves, and obviously I started my practice from scratch, neither of us say, oh, like acquisition is the only way or startups the only way. It's just, there's so many unique things and scenarios that have to be brought into consideration. Like, are you the right type of person, like you are, to just go figure it out and jump out of that plane and build your parachute on the way down? Like, you've got to be a special type of person to start a practice from scratch. You also just have to look about what's available. You just said, hey, I don't really want to make that drive. And so, yeah, I guess I could have acquired a practice in the town an hour over, but this is just what I want to do. So there's geographical factors, there's personality factors. There's so many things that go into it. And so I never want anyone who's listening to feel like, oh, you have to do one or the other, or it's just so not black and white. But I love how you worked through that. You had data, but you also had a hunch, right? I mean, I feel like more than anybody, you trust your gut on a lot of things, not just with how you started your practice, but with how you run your practice. You kind of mentioned how the leadership of your team, and I think that would be a good thing to chat about. Talk to me about your team, because you've grown nearly 50% almost every year in practice, for round number purposes. And I don't see that stopping anytime soon for you. Talk about your team, like the good, the bad, the ugly, how's that factored into your practice so far?
As far as my team goes, we started out with 2 full-time employees, 1 front desk, insurance, scheduling, and then 1 assistant. So I did all my own cleanings. Pretty quickly, I guess 3 months, jumped to 2 assistants. And then probably 8 months in, hired a hygienist. That was, second to my wedding day. That was probably my happiest day.
I hear that a lot. I
hired a hygienist. I felt like I had made it until I had to start paying her. And then that was a bug. Eventually that works out, but for the first couple months, she was
what is it worth to you to not do a pro theater again? That price is pretty high for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I gladly gave her some of my paycheck there. So that was, let's say we started in September, second assistant December, hygienist May, second hygienist December. So within a year, we were up to 2 hygiene. Following fall, probably hired second front desk. And then it kind of gets foggy there. I don't know. Somewhere we went from 2 to 8 team members, so a lot of growth there. And in that growth, just a lot of personal development for me and learning how to lead those people and getting people to treat each other with love too, because that's not always easy for some. So, that was an interesting journey. But the past year, working with youth helped me a lot. Mostly just being able to have those one-on-ones that because I'm not an extrovert. I'm definitely an introvert. I'll talk to people want to talk, but I would view myself as a man of few words mostly, for the most part. So I spent a lot of my first couple years just hoping people would figure it out, and that doesn't work.
Maybe after time, right? I mean, you have some difficult conversations. You mold those team members. You find the right people, which is the most important thing. You find the right people who have the right attitudes, and then over time, they start to figure stuff out, right? You're not having these conversations every day, but
no,
it's certainly not that you just turn people loose with an office manual and expect things to be, perfect every day. That's just not the case. Yeah. I absolutely know that from, everything that you've talked about with your team, but that is such an important thing in getting growth and leadership. You've made such good progress there, but there's been some other things I feel like you've done really well. What has been some other keys to your growth in your practice that you feel like people who are listening to this could benefit from hearing?
I mean, you touched on it being honest and fair. I mean, people see right through fakeness. If you don't believe what you're saying, then they're not going to believe what you're saying. if you tell someone they need a crown and you don't really think they need a crown, then they're not going to do it, and they shouldn't, because that's a miserable way to practice. So being fair and honest is huge, especially in a small community like this. But, logistically, I don't know of an insurance we don't take, including Medicaid, which comes with struggles at times, obviously. But I think what you and I have touched on, I think there's a misconception that to be successful, you've got to be a cosmetic dentist and, fees for service and, only take a handful of insurances. And I tried that, actually. I don't know that I've ever told you that, but at the beginning, not the cosmetic stuff, but at the beginning, I was signed on with like 5 insurances.
Really? Yeah, you never told me that. Look at us learning stuff.
Yeah. So, which my insurance lady at the time was like, "Have you ever thought about maybe taking some more insurances?" And I was consulted by a different service to do it that way. And man, that was a lesson learned the hard way. Thankfully, I did stay on part time with my associateship, so the bank didn't take my house or anything. But for 2 or 3 months there, it was hard to sleep. And then we got signed on with Medicaid. We started taking insurance. Like if you came through the door and you had an insurance we didn't take, we got signed up with that insurance. And so back to like what you said earlier, there's not a black and white. There's not a playbook for that, a one size fits all mold. And for me, that was taking a lot of insurances, taking them all, bring them on. So I think you just gotta keep an eye on everything, as an owner. See what you're getting reimbursed for stuff and be sure that the numbers work out. But for the most part, in my experience, are there some things, do I love getting paid $52 for an extraction? No, but that comes with its benefits on other services too sometimes. So until I'm just so busy that I'm turning people away for weeks at a time, for me, taking all the insurances makes sense. And I think that was a big part of our growth. I know that it was. So
That's huge what you just said. And you understood that. You lived this few month period where you're like, okay, if my chair is empty, I'm making $0.
it makes no sense.
If my chair is empty and someone walked into my practice and said, hey, can you take this tooth out for $10? You would do it.
Yeah.
Like you have, in that scenario, you have no overhead. So, and I've talked about this on the podcast, and now you understand why you should go the other way. But yeah, until you're just slammed beyond belief, or you're making the income that you want, and you can start to make some like lifestyle choices, like, hey, I just don't want to work quite as fast, and I'm okay with dropping insurances or sacrificing some things there. Why would you not try to get your chairs as full as possible, especially right at the start?
Blows my mind that advice that is being given, but it is. They were very strongly suggesting that. They were being, you don't want to take this, the reimbursement's poor, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm excited when the phone's ringing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's ringing twice a day, and one, maybe both of those calls are insurances we don't accept. But it didn't take, it was probably a couple weeks, and then we started changing that,
Yeah.
So
there's bad advice coming from people who don't necessarily have your best interests in mind. I think about people who may be, or dentists who may be very stubborn to learn how to do surgery or really learn how to do any endo. How would you address a situation in your office where someone comes in and maybe they need endo core crown, maybe they need a tooth removed and a graft? What do you do in that scenario? That is a great service to be able to take care of that for your patient. It's a very lucrative to do as well, because you're getting endo core crown production, or maybe removal and implant production, who knows? So that's like a win-win for everybody. But like, if you couldn't comfortably do those things, what do you do? Okay, well, patient, if you want to do this, I got to send you over here to the endodontist first, and then you're going to come back. Oh, it's going to cost more money and it's going to take more visits. Okay, but if you don't want to do that, I'm going to send you to the oral surgeon then. And then, yeah, like you really don't need to come back to see me at all, I guess, unless you get an implant and then need a crown. Not only is that not a good way to grow your practice, but it's just not a great service to the patient.
No, it just makes you a better dentist in general. Being able to, raise a flap and understand the way bone works. And that ties into crown and bridge, and being able to navigate canals, it all works together, you know? It's like being able, I mean, you're a golfer. It's like if you could only drive the ball or you could only putt, I mean, you know, you're never going to be a great golfer. You got to have the full bag. So, and there's still stuff, you know, I refer when a patient's extremely medically compromised or had, you know, head and neck radiation, or I still punt stuff, but I'm definitely able to do everything. I mean, for the most part. So yeah, I would agree with that. And a big part of that is, I think in school, I've followed around the surgeons and endodontists, and when I got my requirements pretty quickly, so I ended up doing a ton of endo and assisting in a ton of implant surgeries and stuff, because I knew early on, like, endo and implants are gonna be where it's at, you know, like that's gonna be the stuff where most people are referring. That's gonna be a practice builder. So I spent definitely the last semester of my 4th year and most of my 4th year just dog-telling them. I mean, hanging out with them every day, the periodontist and the oral surgeon. So that was extremely beneficial.
Yeah, I did the same thing. It was the best, and I know it totally changed with COVID. I know a lot of this changed and how you can do stuff at the dental schools. One of my best mentors was our undergrad oral surgery leader, and we just go hang out and help the third years, 4th year, helping third years remove teeth, removing tori, placing a few implants, and doing it under the guidance of somebody else. So initial associateship as well, working while my practice was getting started. Like, you had your associateship where you were able to grow a bit. Mine was in a largely Medicaid clinic, and a lot of these patients they're like, "Doc, if my insurance is going to pay for the endo, they're not going to pay for the crown, so just plop a big filling in there and let's see what we can do. Like, let's see how long we can get this tooth to last." And I would be honest with patients, like, "Hey, this molar is bombed out. I don't think the likelihood of me getting this endo done and you having this tooth for a long time, I don't think that likelihood is high, but I'll certainly try." And they were all for it. And you know what? Sometimes you go to remove decay, or you go to access that tooth and you realize it's fractured, or you perforate because of the decay is so large. Like, you certainly don't want to experiment on your patients, but like, these types of cases just provided great opportunities for growth and learning. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, sometimes you just need to remove the tooth. So there's different ways to get that experience, whether it's a GPR, whether it's in dental school, whether it's going to take some courses afterward. But I think if you are not growing the way you want to, and you're not able to provide a service like this, that's one of the lowest hanging fruit. And
You don't endo for sure.
Mhm. The thing that's unique talking about this is that once you get to a point where you are happy in your practice with what you've got going, that's what's so cool about dentistry, is you can start to pick and choose what fulfills you. What are you just able to do well? Like, if you're doing a pulp and stainless steel crown on a kid every 6 months, well, maybe you just don't want to do that anymore. Just let the pediatric dentist handle it. Once you get to a point where you're happy, you can start to make those decisions. But until then, I would start to uncover every opportunity for me to grow as a dentist and be able to provide as many services as I can, and do them well, so that I could be prepared for anyone who comes in my office. It's not a requirement to have a great practice, but to get to a great practice, I think being able to possess all these skills is really important as a dentist. So I'm glad you talked about that, because that's something that I don't think a lot of people want to do. I think it's difficult. It can be difficult.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to find some education, some continuing education, that maybe you have to fly out there once a month and do some hands-on stuff. But there's a lot of good material out there post-grad even.
You're describing stepping out of your comfort zone, doing a molar endo that you're not super comfortable with, pushing yourself a bit, and knowing where the line is between referring or stopping and referring in the middle of a procedure. That's all uncomfortable. What would you say has been the biggest challenge over the years as you've grown? Not just the initial stuff, the insurance, the initial like sleepless nights with the startup, but what's been the biggest challenge? And maybe what would you say to others who are struggling with similar things in their practices?
A couple things. First, I would say leadership. I mean, figuring out how to navigate team problems, just tension. With 8 people, there's always going to be someone doing more and feeling overworked, underappreciated, which the underappreciated's on me. They need to be acknowledged for what they're doing. you can't make everyone get along. And so you can guide and nudge and lead, but you can't be afraid to fire people. And I was afraid to fire people for a long time. But once you get over that, it becomes easier. Just because every time, I mean, whether it's firing or someone quits, it's a breath of fresh air because it's a new start. And if they felt like they needed to leave, then they needed to leave. My mentor, who I worked for, some of the best advice he gave me was, if someone wants to quit, never talk them out of it, because it will come back to bite you. They will eventually quit, and you're just going to pay them more to make you miserable. So, just navigating through that. And then secondly, in addition to that, I would say giving yourself grace. Don't be too hard on yourself. Like, you either make something or you learn something. You either win something or you learn something. So just learn from that situation. Don't expect to grow and not encounter adversity. That's foolish. So when you go through hard times and when you do make mistakes, just reflect and figure out what led to that situation and how you could make it better next time. Whether it was, being more intense in your interviews and trying to ask more difficult questions up front, or setting the tone better for people to receive instruction and correction from the start. Those were some examples, but it's never over. Like, don't be careful not to buy into the lie that like you're doomed or you're no good or you're insufficient or you keep making the same mistake. That's just a negative mindset. So a positive mindset is self-reflective, and you can coach yourself in the fact that you can always improve upon something.
Mhm.
So looking back, just reminiscing on the journey, I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for the hard times because that makes you appreciate the good times. And I think you have to remember that through the whole journey. I remember so much people before even dental school, maybe even in undergrad, maybe before undergrad, or all the above. People say, "Oh man, it's a long time in school. You sure you want to do that? That's a lot of debt." Like, God, the debt thing. Because I have successful friends that are not in dental school, or maybe not business owners, or actually one of the guys who's a big debt guy. He's actually a business owner now. I think he understands debt better. Man, he would put so much negativity in my head about the debt, and I thank God that that's never really bothered me, the debt part of it. But to anybody who struggles with debt out there, you got to get over that. There's such thing as a good debt and a bad debt. If you can't pay your boat note, then that's bad, But if we're cash flow on a business loan, that's good. Those are two different things. So, just looking back on it all, I'm excited for the future and the journey that lies ahead, because I've learned to appreciate the hard times too, So I'm glad that I didn't let the negative thoughts win. I didn't let what other people said scare me, or at least scare me into quitting. Because there were times like, wow, man, $500,000 in debt is a lot, and then another 600, 500, 600, 700,000, whatever it takes to start your practice. And then, real quick into the 7 digits in debt. But now on the other side, looking at it, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that it wasn't easy and that it's still not. But there's a lot of peace in a thankful heart, for sure.
Mhm. Absolutely. And if it were easy, everybody would do it, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
I think that's a great spot to stop, because that's very, very poignant what you just said. And man, I appreciate you coming on the show. You deserve all the success in the world, and I honestly couldn't be happy for you. And it's been awesome to get to know you and work with you. And I hope we can continue to check in with you here over the years too, to see how you're doing, because you've got an awesome perspective, not just on dentistry, but on life. And I hope that really benefits everyone who's listening today. So thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all the help, and thanks for having me on. It's fun. It's cool to see it come full circle, like I said, and been a big time fan of you guys. So I just feel very fortunate to be able to work with you.
Appreciate that very much. Good times ahead. So, and thank you to everyone who's listening. Thank you for tuning in today. If y'all are ready to take ownership of your life and career, let's talk. You know how to reach me, Matt at thelifestylepractice.com. Go to our website, fill out that free practice assessment. Just get in touch. Send this podcast to a friend. We want to help you all. That's what we do. That's what we're passionate about, Derek, Steve, and I. And we hope to be able to make an imprint on as many of our fellow dentists as we can in what we're doing here with TLP. So until next time, thank you, Doc, and cheers to everyone listening. Take care. If this video resonated with you, click the link in the description or head to our website and fill out our free practice and quality of life assessment to receive personalized insights and advice from Derek, Steve, and I of the Lifestyle Practice. We've helped hundreds of dentists elevate their lives and careers, and we'd love to do the same for you.